Hello everybody, this is Jasmina, and here I'm going to talk about finding your best sectors. This is a revamp of an old video. I have new contact information, of course, but here I'm actually going to show you some examples, which I did not do last time. So hopefully this will be a lot more helpful to everybody. So basically finding your best sector depends on your charts, the three charts that you will have, and on your landforms. The right landforms, first off, can activate special formations in the flying star chart, but it also, certain landforms will activate certain stars in your house. And if they activate a positive star, it's fantastic. Even if you don't have an otherwise activated special formation, it can still make a sector very good. So mountains activate the sitting star in a flying star chart. And in Feng Shui, the Chinese character for mountain also refers to hills and higher ground. So anything that has higher ground than where your house is sitting is considered some sort of mountain. Of course, the higher that is, especially visually higher, the stronger it is, but it still activates it even if it's minor. Now, unfortunately, a mountain, hill or higher ground, must come from nature. You cannot create this. Most of the time, buildings are not considered to be mountains because a building honestly is largely air. There is some beliefs, and I don't know how widespread they are among the masters, but if a building is like 100 years old or maybe older, it has enough permanence, and that means basically it has enough maintenance and people care about the building and they're keeping it up, that it can start to act like a weak mountain. But a newly built, let's say apartment building, which could be quite tall, is not truly a mountain. Of course, if it's an apartment so that you can actually see through the building, through the single apartment, which I've actually lived in a place where a certain room within an apartment, like it was the family room, if they had their curtains open, you could see all the way through, and they regularly had their curtains open. And they had a TV so large we could almost watch a program on their TV, and they were several hundred feet away. I mean, maybe over five. I'm pretty sure it was over 500 feet, maybe even 1,000 feet. The building was actually quite far away. It didn't feel close at all, and yet their TV was so big we could actually see people on the TV. It was almost life size. The people may have been smaller than the people on the TV. So it was pretty funny. We used to say we need to find that number and ask him to change the channel, but of course we never did. Now, when we're talking about water, we're talking about lakes, ponds, or swimming pools. They will activate the facing star. Water features can be man-made, but the water needs to be kept clean. And even if it's a lake, a natural lake, if that water is always muddy, it is not a good water feature. If your pond, if there's a natural pond and it's full of algae and smells bad, it's also not a good water feature. This has to be something that has clean water. Now, if you put in a swimming pool and it has a filtration system, of course, if that filtration system breaks down, then you need to get it repaired. Otherwise, it becomes a negative feature. And ponds, you can either have a filter if you're putting in a pond, or if you have the right balance of plants and fish, you can actually create a clean water without any filtration. But that's pretty tricky. Most people need a filter to keep everything clean. Now, in a lake, you're not going to have a filter. Either the lake has naturally clean water or not. Now, Rivers do not count as water feature. Oceans do not count as a water feature. Fountains do not qualify as a good water feature. So, and there are reasons for this. Now, rivers have a definitive flow, and it's usually fairly significant. Now, lakes also have some, I mean, the lake water isn't totally stagnant. It does move. Wind can make it have tiny waves, but the thing is, a river, even if the wind is blowing strongly the other way, it doesn't have a reverse flow, with the exception of tidal rivers, the very close to the ocean. Sometimes the water does flow backwards for a little bit. But the way you look at rivers is through Sanhe feng shui. Not, this is San Yuan I'm talking about here. All your charts are San Yuan. So I have talked about Sanhe feng shui already. There is a whole, I think a whole playlist that I talk about this. You use the Sanhe rules to analyze a river, which is different than looking at a lake. So I just want to be clear about that. Now, an ocean, because it has tides coming into the house, going away from the house, in and out, I mean, it just does that basically every day, twice a day. I think that's what they say. I've never lived on the ocean. They don't perform well because the energy is always ebbing and flowing. It's not stable. So that's not great for a house. And fountains, unless they are super, super gentle, fountains are not good for a house because they're too energetic. They're great for a retail space where you want to get people, energized and interested in your products. But for a house, it's not very healthy. It tends to tire people out, especially if it's a fast-moving fountain and there's a lot of splashes. If it's very gentle, it may be okay. But you still have to have a filter to keep the water clean. A fountain definitely needs a filter. Now, the first step to finding your best sector is to determine your three charts: the Flying Star chart, Purple White chart, and Chimin Dunja charts. And the Chimin Dunja chart, you really just need the spirit and the door to have a good base. When I look at a house, I do look at everything, but that for, especially if I'm doing it for myself, of course, I am looking at everything in the chart, and in the Chimin chart, that is, and I kind of pinpoint rooms for certain activities. And you can do that with just the spirit and the door also. But sometimes the star or perhaps the hexagram can have a bigger effect, or not a bigger effect, but an effect that maybe makes two somewhat equal sectors in the Chimin chart. One will be better than the other. But either one is better than choosing a bad sector, is basically what I'm trying to say. Now, you will need the period of your residence. You need its facing direction. You need an address number for a house or a floor number for an apartment, and the subsector of your main chi entry point. This will give you all your charts. Now, the main door is the main chi entry point for a house. This is the one where packages are delivered to. And if you're in an apartment or a condo, it's the balcony door. And only if you do not have a balcony, then you look at your largest window. And this needs to be in the family area, not in somebody's bedroom. So that is the things that you need to find all your charts. And I have talked about all the, finding your charts in other videos. But this is, for the Flying Star chart, you just get this online for free. You can get it almost anywhere these days. Now, the facing and the main chi entry sector need to be measured with respect to true north. the geodetic north, not compass north. And that's because the sun is what creates chi on Earth. If we didn't have the sun, the Earth would be lifeless. So the only real chi we receive on Earth that can create life is from the sun. So it's how the sun hits your house that determines your chi. And it's how the sun hits the mountains or the water around you that determines the chi. And that is based on true north, not compass north. And there are many places on Earth where compass north and true north can be off by a lot, 20 degrees or more. And right now, compass north is moving at a faster than it in recorded history. There have been in ancient times a flip of the poles, and we see that in rocks that basically volcanic rock that's layered over time, and you can actually get what your north, if we flip, and we might be in the beginning of a flip, what would have been pointing north this year, some years down the road will be pointing south. So that's what I mean by a compass flip. It can happen. It's happened in the past, and there is speculation it might be happening today. I mean, it's not going to do it in a day, but it's going to do it over a number of years. How many years? We really don't know. Now, satellites and surveys use UTM North, and it has a mathematical formula to convert it to true north, so it's doable. And I've talked about this in other videos about how to do this conversion, and even have some online stuff. Now, true north can also be determined from the shadow at your local solar noon. And this actually is the most straightforward way to do it, but it takes a little bit of effort, and you have to have the right situation to be able to do it. Now, I have videos that cover both of these. So, and I recommend you do this for yourself, because this gives you more confidence. I think that it's done right. It's certainly, don't look at your compass. Not only does your compass have declination, which is the difference between true north and compass north, we all have so much electromagnetic interference now that it's very hard for a compass to be correct. Now, after you analyze all three of your charts, and assuming you don't have any special formations, you'll still have a handful of sectors that are good. But you still have to look at annual afflictions and also annual and monthly stars. And that might cause you to temporarily move to a different sector in your house that is best. And the one that does that the most is the monthly stars. Basically, wherever star 5 is in the month, this is the one you want to use less if you can. Sometimes you can't, but when that is the case, when you can't move, then you just know you have to be a little more careful, because the star 5, whether it's a month star or an annual star, tends to lead to problems. And you just have to be more careful than normal, and you can survive it if you cannot move. You really have to check all the boxes, make sure you haven't made a mistake. The annual afflictions and the month stars are usually the most disruptive, because they the month stars because they keep moving, and the annual afflictions because they tend to be the stronger problem stars. Now, the 5 yellow annual affliction and the month star 5 are, I would say, the most worrisome of all these. And I think it's pretty obviously why. Now, you can use a sector with a star 3, whether it's a month star or an annual star, if you can keep your temper in check. That is, if you're easily angered, I would say don't use a sector with star number 3, because you're going to have problems and you're going to get into a lot more arguments. But if you can keep your cool, most of the time the star 3 is not a problem, but not everybody can do that. Now star 7, basically you basically have to be careful about being scammed or having a break-in. So if you're not in the room, make sure your exterior doors and the windows are locked. Or at least if they're open, they can't, you have something that only opens them a little bit and they can't open all the way. And that's true when you're not in the room. Even if you leave it for a few minutes, if you have the star 7 there, it's possible somebody is watching that particular window or particular door. So, in fact, I would say even when you're in the room, unless your kids are outside, that door, your exterior door should be locked. It's too easy to have somebody come in. The window is a bit harder. You will catch somebody trying to open up a window larger if they're trying to get in. But also scams, online scams, any kind of scams are more possible. So if you watch for this, you're careful with this, you can use a sector with a star 7. It's not so bad if this is if you can't move. Now, star 2 is not totally agreed upon. Some say it's an illness star, some say it's not. So this is also a possible sector you could use. I have tested this out as a month star, and it didn't lead to any illness, but it was only a month. So I think it is actually a well star now, or at least not a negative star. Now, the annual star 2 is not without an other annual affliction until 2029. So we won't have a real long period, like a full year to test it out until 2029. And I would say by 2030, we will know whether or not it is an illness star or a well star, or at least a neutral star in the annual and month stars. In the flying star chart and your purple white chart, star 2 is a well star. Again, in your flying star chart and your purple white chart, everybody agrees that star 2 is now a well star. Now, the center of your residence basically has the least chance of having problems. There's no annual afflictions there and no negative properties in the Chi chart. In fact, there's like almost no properties in the Chi chart in the center. But your center of the house is often difficult to use for important activities, except perhaps family relationships. So it could be a family room or family area, maybe a game table is set up there. Maybe your dining table is there and you don't let people be on their phone when dinner is going on. And so you talk. The center of the house also affects your entire house, and it should therefore have a chi connection. That is, chi should flow from your main entry to that center without any doors. You could have a small partition wall, but you don't want a large partition wall. You want to have chi easily get from your main chi entry point to that center, because that energizes the entire house. Of course, it is helpful if you got good properties there, but it is the sector that you're more likely to have no negative properties. Now, it is difficult to use the center of your residence for work unless you live alone or live with another working adult who is as busy as you are, and you might even be able to work in the same center area if you just basically work in, and you can interact too, of course, but if you both can work near each other without getting into arguments, it's perfect. Now, the flying star chart needs the period and the facing direction, And for the whether it's a house or an apartment, a flat, a condo, the facing direction is for the entire building, not your unit. So this is the one chart that always uses the entire building facing. The purple white chart needs your address or floor number, an address for a house, a floor number for an apartment or condo, and your main incoming chi sector. We only need the sector, we don't need the subsector for this. We will need the subsector for the Chiman chart. So again, the house, the door that people ring the doorbell, where packages are delivered, that's your main chi entry. And for an apartment, it'll be your balcony door if you have a balcony, or your largest window if you do not have a balcony. It can occasionally be an entry door, but this is only true if when you exit the store, you are outside. You are not in a hallway. You are interacting with whatever air is outside. And I've lived in apartments like this. They weren't huge apartments, but I've lived in such apartments. Now the Chiman chart needs the period, the facing, and your incoming chi subsector. And again, that subsector, it's the main door for a house, balcony door, largest window for an apartment. And again, the same thing holds. If you step outside your entry door and you're outside, when you leave your apartment, you're in the outside air, then that is your main chi entry, even for an apartment. So, and oftentimes it will be in the same direction as the building, just because that's usually how the facing goes. I mean, that's usually how they set it up. If you're going to be walking outside, it'll be the same as the facing. Now, for freestanding houses or duplexes, usually duplexes can be treated like houses. The facing is very, very likely to be the direction perpendicular to the wall that faces the road. You're measuring from inside to outside. It's always inside to outside, no matter what. But do not measure with your phone's compass. Use the satellite, or if you can get a survey, it's even better. And then you need to use the UTM to true north correction, or you use your measurements at solar noon. That will give you the direct thing here. You don't need to do the UTM to true north correction. When it comes to the flying star chart, for apartments, the facing direction is the entire building's facing. Now, this can be a little bit harder for some people to discern, and in apartments, it's oftentimes a little bit more complicated than a house. It doesn't necessarily have to be towards the road. But well, I can do this, and most people can do this. You can just look at the building and you'll know where the facing is, but not everybody can. The easiest way to do it is if you look at the ads, as now everything's online, look at the ad online, look at the first image you see of the apartment, of the one you are, if it's a bunch of towers, of the tower you are basically going to be living in. Of course, they look pretty similar, but see whatever is the wall that is basically facing you is the facing wall, and you would measure from, you would have to get floor plans, and they will, most of the time, if they have different towers, they will have a north arrow that will vary if the tower direction varies, and you will be able to use that, and that'll be UTM north if it's on a drawing, and there you can use it, and you can determine which is the facing, and it's usually the most attractive side of the building. That, I mean, it's the one that just, well, for me, I can look at a building and I basically know. It just feels like the facing side, and that's a little frustrating, I know. Now, your unit facing and your building facing can be different directions. and you have to use the correct facing for each chart. The Flying Star chart uses the whole building facing. The other two charts use your unit facing for an apartment. So this is how it goes. Flying Stars, building facing, purple, white, and Cheeman, unit facing. So this only applies to apartments, of course. Now, the period of an older house is actually kind of hard to find, and you do need the period. But if you have a decent history of the house, that is, you have a government office that it can tell you something about the property, then usually you can actually figure this out. Foreclosures, which are usually written down somewhere, typically change the period of the house. If it's not foreclosed in the period in which it was built, you will be able to find the period in which the house was built in most building departments, in almost any jurisdiction that isn't, is beyond a village, basically. Now, the inheritance of a house where the heirs do not live there already usually also changes the period of the house, unless they happen to move in right away. And that is a little harder to know. Actually, that's quite a bit harder to know, unless the heirs are still there and you can ask them. So, but inheritance of a house is usually written in there. Oftentimes it will be a quit claim deed. At least in the United States, that's what they call it. And they probably have different names. If it's not an English-speaking country, it will have a different name, of course. But that is often when someone passes away, that's how the property gets transferred. When a house is for sale, you can usually get some history of this, but even if you're looking for a house now, you can see how long the house has been on the market usually. And of course, if you find out the owners are not living there, you will basically know there's a possibility of a period change. Of course, it depends on if the house was built in a different period than the one we're currently living in. And today, of course, since we're a couple years into period 9, if somebody has gotten a job someplace else and they're trying to sell their house and they're not living there anymore, then, of course, I don't know how long houses stay in the market right now, because we don't plan on buying any new houses, so we don't keep track of that, but you can get some idea. Now, also, if it's in a place where you have to have a building permit to build, then an increase or decrease in more than 1/3 of the existing area of the house would be an indication that the period has changed. And if you have records of the house and the square footage is significantly different than what's on the record, then you need to find out when that was done, when the illegal would be, or at least unpermitted addition was done. And it would be the same thing if somehow, part of the house was gone. And that's usually because of some big damage, like a tornado or something like this took some of the house away. And so instead of rebuilding the whole thing, they just created a new exterior wall in the undamaged, largely undamaged part of the house. Now, a complete roof replacement, that is down to the rafters or trusses, not necessarily, those don't have to be gone, but the decking has to be gone so you can see the sky in not just cracks, but see large areas of the sky. This can be harder to discern. And it's really not very common unless there was a fire or a weather-related problem that caused severe roof damage. Most of the time, when they say the roof is replaced, they just mean the top part. That is, the underlayment and the shingles or the tiles or whatever, the metal, whatever's the final finished roof. Now, Right now, most houses are period 7, 8, or 9. And actually, 8 is quite common. We had basically in period 8, there was a subprime mortgage meltdown, at least here in the United States, and it affected a lot of the world. And because people were getting into too much debt here, and so they were buying less, and so that affected the whole world. A lot of houses changed to period 8, even if they were built earlier. Period 6 houses are a lot less common. Usually they've had something done, or there's been an inheritance, and usually you will see this. Now in period 8, it was a lot of foreclosures that happened. Now I've never had a foreclosure or anything like this because I'm paranoid about owing money, so we always pay everything off pretty much continuously, and we don't buy stuff we can't afford. Occasionally, I mean, when we bought our current house, yes, we had to get a loan. And for the solar panel in the new house, yes, we got a loan. So anyway, the for apartments, flats, and condos, the move-in date of the first person in any unit within the building. And it's typically the year the building was completed. That's going to determine the period. And that is as simple as that. And apartments can be much older than houses, because as long as there's somebody living in one of the units of the building will not change, period. Now, this period also is used in the units of the Cheeman, for a single unit for the Cheeman chart and the purple white chart. You even if somebody didn't move into your apartment until a period change had been done, if somebody lived in the whole building before that, it's still that older period. So we don't look at your unit, we just look at the building as a whole. Now, the purple-white chart doesn't use the period in any residence, so it uses the annual star instead. So we don't care about the period for the purple-white chart. So that can actually be used no matter what. It doesn't really care about the period of the house or the period of the apartment, provided you have a definitive facing direction for the unit and a definitive location for the main chi entry. So if the facing is right between the dividing line between two different facings, and the center of the door and the closed position is right at the line that divides two different sectors, then yes, the purple white chart might not exist for your house, and you might not have any charts. And then it's better to look at San He Feng Shui if you're in that situation, or move out or don't move in, because they're much harder to analyze. Now, your flying star chart governs the quality and frequency of outside opportunities, and it's the most important one to have an activated special formation, especially if you're in a house, because you receive the full energy. Activation is the key, and many times, but not always, it will require particular landforms be present. And I've talked about this already in other videos, what you need to activate special formations and everything. In a house, this is the most important chart because you get the complete energy, all of the energy that is in that building. The purple-white chart governs your emotions or level basic happiness within a given sector. This too may have a special formation that time activates, so you don't have to really worry about any kind of landforms. Landforms help, but they're not necessary. And Cheeman governs how satisfied you are basically with your current life. There are no special charts here, but there are charts that are, let's say, some charts have good sectors to like do a manifestation or do planning, and other sectors are good for action, trying to activate your manifestation. And other houses may have those two things in the same sector. Some houses will have it in separate sectors. And so this means you have to be in the right place for the right action or the right activity to get what you are looking for. And here, when we're talking about doors in the Chi chart, each door has its own special energy that can help you get certain things done. And I'm preparing a video. Actually, no, it's already out, that will have the details. So this can really help you understand. And it will also tell you how you find those two things, the spirit and the door in your Chi chart. There are other things in the Chi chart that are less important, but they have some effect sometimes. Now, these in an apartment, these two are more important because the flying star chart's energy gets spread throughout all the apartments equally. So if you have over 100 apartments, you get less than 1% of the flying star chart energy. If you're in a condo that only has 4 units, then you get 25%. So that's pretty big, but less than 1%, don't worry about it. You can actually ignore the flying star chart in a huge apartment building, like a high-rise building. Now, does living in a place without an activated special formation lead to disaster? I think this is a question some people will have. The answer is no. It will not lead to disaster. What it does is it makes life more difficult. If you can, especially if you cannot use the best sectors of your residence because maybe there's somebody else's bedroom, maybe you only have access to one room in a house because of because you're only renting a room. This can make it very, very difficult to have more opportunities. Best thing to do is basically be outside more or be in places where you have better energy. And usually you can just do it by how you feel, honestly. And it might be a friend's house where you have better energy. Now, if you can't move soon, the best thing to do is spend less time at home. It is possible you might be able to rearrange a working desk to one of the better locations, even if it's only in a bedroom. There is something called small Tai Chi. It's not the best thing to use, but you can use it. If you have the ability to do so. And I do talk about this, Chi Flow and small Tai Chi in another video. Now, having a house with one of the 4 best special formations in the flying star chart being activated, and that usually, again, has requirements. Oftentimes it's landforms, but one only requires no missing sectors. It makes progress easier. It just is easier to get ahead because opportunities come your way. Now the same holds for apartments, but the focus chart usually changed to the purple, white, and the Chi charts as being more powerful. And basically, if you can be in a good Chi sector, that's also a good purple, white sector, this is the best places in your apartment. And of course, this can change from year to year because the purple-white chart does change year to year. Now, the lower the number of apartments in your building, the more important the flying star chart is. So, again, if it's over 100 apartments, you're in a high-rise, you can pretty much ignore the flying star chart. Now, once you know all your charts, you still have to contend, of course, with the annual afflictions and the annual month stars because they have some effect. It's not permanent, but in a certain year, it can make things more difficult. If you have no activated special formations in your flying star chart and no special formations in your purple-white chart, You may find that all your better sectors have problems with the annual afflictions or the annual month stars during 1 year or 1 month because you don't if you don't have either of these having special formations, then even these have bad sectors. If they have the special formation and it's activated either by time with the purple white chart or the right landforms or no missing sectors in your flying star chart, then you just look at the achievement chart and makes life much easier. Now, under these conditions, what you need to do is choose a sector that has some issues, but you will know what issues can arise because of what's there. Usually it's the stars. And you can be careful to control the tendencies, the negative tendencies that may come out. So again, if it's a star 3 and you have to use that sector or it's the best one you can find, then basically you need to be able to stay calm. If you're a person who is easily angered, then don't use this sector. You're going to have to use a different one. Or don't work at home in a certain year where you can't use another sector. But count to 10 before responding. Stay as calm as possible. These things can keep you from getting into trouble with either an annual star 3 or a month star 3, especially the month star. Now for star 7, again, theft is possible. So make sure your windows and exterior doors are locked when you're not in the room, and be careful of scams. Now both of these actually can have positive effects. But usually they need to be timely for those effects to be easily seen. But if you focus properly, you can also bring some of that out. So a star 3 can give you physical stamina. And so that is good if you are, have trouble with being tired. The star 7 can give you a better ability to communicate clearly. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you're enunciating better, or maybe you get rid of a hard to understand accent. It means that you're choosing your words better. It could mean better enunciation, but most of the time it means you're choosing your words better so that you get your point across faster and more clearly. So star 5 is let's say, the more difficult one because it basically can lead to all kinds of misfortune. So you should avoid it if at all possible, but it is acceptable if it's a base star in your flying star chart. It doesn't have an effect on your life like the sitting and facing star does. So that's the one star you can ignore. Of course, it's nice if you don't have to use that sector, but it's not a disaster if you do have to use it. Now, star 2 is definitely in period 9, is definitely okay in the flying star chart and the purple white chart. But once we reach period 3, star 2 is going to become untimely and should be avoided because it will be an illness star. What is not agreed upon is in the time stars, that is the annual and month star, is star 2 an illness star, or has it also become a well star? So this is the jury is still out on this. I did test star 2 as a month star, and it does not seem to be an illness star, but it will be better if we can test it as a year star, and that won't happen until 2029. So it's still a bit away. Now, star 5 as a year or month star should be avoided because it is fairly strong. And of course, a month star 5, if you can't use another sector of your house, maybe you do your work outside the house. So that, hopefully in your at your work, you could stay late at work and do some work there, and hopefully that doesn't have a star 5. You can do these same things for an apartment, office building. It all can be applied. But of course, that means you have to know a lot about your office building. So that can be a bit of a pain to do. And doing it once for your house is usually enough. Star 2 as a month star can be tested certain months, not every single month. There are times when star 2 will be within another annual affliction. So you can look at that and you can test this yourself as a month star. But everybody will not be able to test it as a year star again until 2029. And then we'll have a better idea whether or not it's an illness star or a well star, or at least not an illness star. Maybe in the time charts, the annual and month stars, it's not necessarily an illness star anymore, but it might not really be a well star. It may be more neutral. Now, when it comes to finding your flying star chart, you can do this for free. Dozens of sites. Just do an internet search and put in house flying star chart, because now you can get the annual flying star chart, and sometimes that's what the first thing that comes up is the annual star, not a house. So you need to be able to have your period and your facing direction. If you don't have that as input, it can't tell you what your flying star chart is. It could have all the charts as possible, but you still have to pick that out then. I have an instructional video that you can use to create your own purple-white chart, but you have to be able to confidently fly all the stars in the forward low shoe pattern. And if you can't do that, either you need to practice more until you can, or there are a couple sources. Joey Yap has a book that explains how to do this. Last check, it's over $130 US. And the feng shui or house Qigong chart is not easy to find. Joey Yap has a book that will do this for you, but it's also well over $100. And I do have a video that will tell you how to get your spirit in your door. It is not going to be publicly available until sometime in April, but then after that it's publicly available. So if you can wait, that's something you can do. I do sell the purple white charts and Qigong charts and the Qigong charts are all of the properties, not just the spirit in the door. And you can purchase that as a subset at my coffee store, which is listed here, at a lower price than buying the books by quite a bit. But you're only going to pay for what applies to your residence. You're not going to get all the charts. You're just going to get the ones that would apply to your residence. So you have to know some information about your residence to do this. If you're going to do this as a business, I would recommend that you learn how to create the purple white chart, because this book is outrageously expensive. But you probably will have to get a Joey Epps book it's called Qigong Dunjia Feng Shui. That's the title of Joey Epps' book. Again, it's expensive, but it has all the charts. There is some typos in it, but it's not a serious typo. The charts seem to be correct. It's the labeling at the top that is sometimes wrong. And it should say house facing and door sector or door subsector. And so if it says door, they're talking about subsector, not facing, because sometimes it'll say, both of them will say house facing. So it was a little bit sloppily done, but the charts are right, and that's what's important. Now, the flying star chart remains fixed unless you change the period of your house, and apartments almost never change the period. You would have to have everybody out of the apartment for 90 consecutive days, and that usually only happens if there's a natural disaster. And if the apartment is that damaged, they usually just tear it down and build a new one because it becomes so expensive to repair. But it's possible. Now, the Qigong chart also remains fixed unless you change the period of your house, or You could change it by moving your main door if you're in a house. You can almost never move the main door, or if you're in an apartment, it'll be the balcony door. It's just not physically possible to do because the structure of the building is meant to have a door, the balcony door, in one particular place. And if you try to move it, you could bring down the whole apartment building, or at least part of it, like that whole side. So this applies to houses, really. And but you can change your Cheeman chart if you go to the expense of moving your main door subsector. It's possible. It's not a cheap option, but sometimes it can result in a much better chart. Now, the purple-white chart changes every year. It has a 9-year repeat cycle. So once you know the chart for a single year, you know the charts for all years, because each year all the numbers go down by 1. So the pattern remains the same, but the location of each set of 3 numbers moves in the low shoe pattern. It's pretty simple. Now, for an apartment, it's usually quite easy to find the period. So it's when the first residents move into any unit of the entire building. We don't care about your particular unit, it's any unit. And this is almost always the year that the building was completed. For a freestanding house, again, it can be a little tricky. Start with when the house was built, and then you need to learn some history of the house. Of course, if you are really worried and you want to be sure about this, if you can afford it, and if you know that the period 9's chart is a good chart, you can buy the house and be out of it for 90 consecutive days, and it'll turn to a period 9 house. So, but that usually means you're paying either rent and a mortgage, which can be a bit tough, or you're paying 2 mortgages perhaps. So you do have to be able to afford it. Otherwise, you're going to have to do some real good searching of the history of the house. And again, one of the easiest things, and if you like the house and you want to increase the size of the house and you have the money to do that, increase it by more than a third. But you still have to make sure, of course, that it is that it still meets a good flying star chart. You don't want to do that if you know the house was built in period 8 and there's always been people living there. You actually, a lot of period 8 charts are better than period 9 charts, so you may not want to do this. Now, if the house has been foreclosed, it is usually vacant long enough, again, to change the period. Talked about this, but I want to make sure you understand this. And if the house goes through an inheritance and the people who inherit it don't live in the area, they're very unlikely to move because they're working someplace else. It also usually changes the period of the house because they have to go through the procedure to, get the right to be able to sell the house even before they can sell it. And that usually changes the period of the house. Again, any 90 consecutive days without people living there, especially if there's not even an open house. An open house probably would break up, and because there'll be enough people there that too much energy. If it's on the market and there are very few people looking, then yes, it could also change the period, but that's a bit more rare. But you can do that yourself if you know that the period 9 house has the right conditions to activate all the good properties. A good flying star chart, a good purple-white chart, things like that. So again, with these sectors, you can start to determine your best sectors. And here I'm going to start looking at things. So basically, if you don't have a special formation, you need to know what stars are timely. And that varies by period. I do have a video that covers all this. It's actually an older video. I might redo it, but I think it's good the way it is. But basically, the current period is period 9, and it will stay period 9 until 2030, actually early February 2044. So we still have a long time in period 9. So it'll be the current period's time, current period's star, and the next two. So 9, 1, and 2, definitely timely in the flying star chart and in the purple white chart. There's no argument about that. The stars 1, 4, 6, and 8 are generally timely regardless of period. In period 9, 8 is as untimely as it can get, but it's still considered to be quite timely. It is, I mean, the worst thing about a period 8, what might be, you might be a little lonely if it's doesn't if it has Shaq or something like this. So, and of course, a house shouldn't have Shaq unless you can mitigate it, and you usually can mitigate it, but you have to keep that mitigation up over time. And also, in general, regardless of the period, these four are considered to be more or less timely. But stars 2, 3, 5, and 7 are generally considered untimely unless they become timely by the period in which we are living. So that's what's happened to star 2. It's timely in the period in which we are living. When we reach period 1, star 2 and 3 will be timely. So that's nice. But we have to wait until we reach period 3 before 5 becomes timely. And in period 3, 3 will still remain timely also. And then in period 5, 5 and 7 will be timely. And so that's just the way it is. Actually, in period 6, 7 will be timely, but 5 will not be, and so forth. In fact, 5 would be pretty negative in period 6. So we get on to some real examples here. So this is just a simple square, well, rectangular house from the satellite or a survey or by looking at the sun at solar noon. You find that this is the facing direction, so you know that this is where the north has to be. And in a survey, you usually have a north arrow. It has to be transferred to the center of the house, which can be a little tricky, but usually you can do that by measuring to the edges of the pages or the edges of the wall, and there are ways to do this. But I use a computer to do this, and if I have a site plan, I can be very, very accurate. But you don't have to be so accurate. Looking at your house from the satellite is usually good enough as long as you can do the UTM to true north correction. So once you do this, you want to put on the 24 mountain ring. So this gives you all the subsectors. And this will allow you to find out where your main door is located, which subsector it's located. It also tells you which sector, of course, but you will need the subsector for the Chiman chart. So we know this house faces northeast 2, and its main door is in east 1. This is what the 24 mountain ring will tell us. So once you know this direction, you know the facing of all your walls. This can help you if you are trying to use your compass inside. If you want to sit here to do a manifestation, you can point your cell phone at this wall, perpendicular to this wall, and see what it reads. If it reads this, I'd be surprised, but whatever it reads, you know whether your phone is reading too high or too low. And you can make the correction because you will know what direction you want to back to. Of course, you're going to face the opposite direction, so that's usually what you're looking at. But it can, once you know your facing of all your walls, you can use your compass. You just have to compensate for its error. And you have to be a little careful. I've experimented with this with a cell phone, not mine because I don't own one, but also my tablet. And when my heating or cooling system kicks in, it changes by 3 degrees in basically almost, immediately. You don't even see the numbers changing. It just kind of goes from one to the other, almost an instant. So this is very hard in an apartment because other people can turn things on and off. That's electromagnetic interference, and your phone is really can't handle that. So because it just it's a compass inside your phone. That's what it is. It's a needle basically inside your phone, just like a compass. So you do have to be careful about that, and maybe you go back and check it, make sure it hasn't changed from a certain reading. It's a pain, which is one reason why if I do this, I basically know what direction everything is, and I can get down to the center of 15 degrees pretty easily. But I have a good sense of that, and not everybody does. So this is the flying star chart for a period 8 house, northeast 2 facing. This is a potential pearl string house. So we have the 147, 147, 147, and then we have the 258, 258, 258, and then we have the 369, 369, and 369. And they will be arranged kind of like this. I mean, they won't be beside each other. And so this is a flying star chart, so it either has a physical requirement of the house or it has landform requirements. And this one has landform requirements. So this comes actually from the video that I talk about all your potential special formations. And so this is literally taken from that slide. And so we're a period 8 house, northeast 2 facing. It has a potential for a permanent parent string and a potential for an up mountain down water. And both can be activated, it's possible, but the permanent parent string is a lot stronger. And so we always hope to have this one be the one that's activated. So this also comes from the activation, how this is activated. I have another video about activating it. And so we're looking at the facing sector. This is a northeast 2 facing house. So it is the 2, 5, and 8. It needs to have mountains in the southwest and the northeast. So that is behind the house and in front of the house. And there are houses where you just have to see the higher ground at least. And if you can see mountains, it's even better. I mean, what we say in English is mountains. Hills are fine too. Any kind of higher ground in front and behind your house for this chart is good. That means that the flying star chart will be activated if you have that. Now, if you don't have it, the most common rules say that the current period and the 2 following ones are timely, along with the 1, 4, 6, and 8. So let's assume we don't have the right mountains. You basically will. One thing I can guarantee: if you are on the top of the highest ground within your visible range, that is, you're on top of the highest hill that you can see, you're not going to have any mountains. And so you won't be able to activate this because you won't have mountains. You're the mountain. So that is not good for a pearl string house. But if you have a mountain in front that you can see and you can place water in back, this could be a swimming pool, a pond, or maybe you're on a lake. Well, actually, if you're on a lake, you probably face the lake, and so that everything would be different, but let's not worry about that. Let's say you put a pond in the backyard. As long as you can keep the water clean, then what you're going to activate is the up mountain, down water formation. That automatically will make these 2 sectors positive. The rest of the sectors, you have to look at it with the common rules, because this does the up mountain down water and the on mountain on water don't activate or don't make all the stars timely for all periods throughout the whole house. It just makes these two sectors timely. And luckily, this is a period 8 because the mountain activates the sitting star, the water will activate the facing star. And so this is a good place for a home office. This is a good place for a bedroom, but no, that I don't think you want to put your bedroom in the where your main door is. So the next best thing would be the kitchen. So if your kitchen is in this sector along with your main door, then this is the best way to have the house arranged. Of course, you're not going to redo your whole house, I think, just for this. So it would have to already be set up that way. And there are houses that where the kitchen is basically you almost walk into it. When I actually have a neighbor who has that situation, and I don't know. I actually haven't analyzed their house because they don't even know I do this, because I just I don't know. I don't know why I don't just tell people in my neighborhood I could do it for them, but I don't know. I just have a hard time telling people that, face to face. So online it just somehow is easier. It seems a little weird, but it's true, at least for me. Now, if there's only a mountain behind, or maybe only have mountains on the side and none in the front, then this up mountain down water cannot be activated. And if there are not two mountains, one in the front and in the back, then the parent string can't be activated. So then you are stuck with looking at, okay, what do I have in the house? What are, at least in this period, what are good sectors? So here we have just two really, really good sectors. This is probably the best sector, and it will stay the best sector basically forever, because we're not so worried about the base star, but the combination of sitting and facing stars is a 1-4. Fantastic for learning. This could be a great home office, especially if you're learning something new. It's a great place for your kids to study, if you have kids, of course. And this sector here, in period 9, just in period 9, the 9 is good for, wealth kind of in the short term, because it's the star that has the most energy. It's the current period star that has the most wealth energy. And 6 is also a wealth star, generally, regardless of period. So this is a fantastic combination. Again, we don't care too much about the base star. Now, in a flying star chart and a purple white chart, star 2 is now a wealth star. So this is a wealth star. Star 8 is a generally a wealth star, but for working for others. Not if you're running a business, this isn't the best place. If you're running a business, one of these is the better place to be. So this is if you're working for somebody else. This is a really good sector. If you are doing any kind of extra learning for the business, or if you have to be at home sometimes to work from home, this would be the better place to be working from home. Now, even though this is, like I say, you can generally ignore the base star, but you still have a 1-4 here. This is a good place to learn. Not as good as here, but it's not bad. And again, the same thing here. You have the 1-4. Now here, this is more for learning something about a business. Here, this is better for, perhaps, if this is a kitchen, this is a good place to learn to cook more healthy. If it's your master bedroom, the owner's bedroom, then this is a good place to learn more about each other and hopefully become closer, or at least understand each other better. And that usually brings you closer. So these are the good sectors. Everything else has issues. It's not that they can't absolutely be used, but they have to be used with care. For example, this sector could be used with care if you can keep your temper in check. If you can't, this is going to lead to a lot of arguments in the family. Here, if you use this one, again, it's not the worst one, but it tends to lead to arguments at work. And these two, it is the 5 that is the problem. This is a problem for health, and so this house in general might not be the best for health. So maybe you really want to have your kitchen here and so you can eat better. And here, this isn't, unfortunately, this is your main door. It has the 5. It is not particularly good for finance. So that's just the way it works. Again, these two can be used, but you have to be able to keep your temper in check, either at home or at work. Now, if you're lucky enough and you have a mountain in front and in back, everything is timely. This is the whole key. This is why, if you know your flying star charts, you know feng shui, you make a house that has one of these activated special formations. That's what you need, because it just makes the house so much easier to deal with. And everything is good. Even the 5 becomes timely, and so it becomes a wealth star. So this is the center for, it's good for health, good for wealth, has an effect on the whole house. Much, much better house. So if you're northeast 2 facing and the house is a period 8 house, if it doesn't have a mountain in front and in back, it's going to be a lot more problematic. And as long as you can see these, it remains active. So hopefully nobody's going to build a really tall house or apartment complex that completely blocks your mountain view. As long as you can see some of the mountain, it's not too bad. Now, you could also place water if you wanted to, and then you're activating both the up and up mountain down water and the parent string. No, this pearl string. But you don't need to. If you want to have a pond or a swimming pool in the back of the house, perfectly fine. It doesn't hurt anything, as long as you still have the mountains. So, if we're going to now look at the purple-white chart, you need the address number. And I just made up a nice looking address number. I mean, these are all positive numbers, in general, but that isn't what we look at. But it's just a number. And here the main door again is in East 1. For the purple-white chart, we only need to know it's in the east. But for the Chiman chart, we need the subsector. So this is the flying star chart for the purple-white. Now, it doesn't have, the key number is 7, because you divide that by 9. We have the 7 after the decimal point. We don't care what this number is here. It could be anything. So the main door is in east, key 7. This does not have a special formation, and there's nothing you can do except move the door if you wanted to. Now the key number 7, I do have a video that will tell you what sector the door has to be in to have this, but to have a special formation, but it also has to make physical sense for the house. And if it ends up that it has to be in what is the back of your house, then that doesn't make any sense to move your door there, because nobody will be able to find your front door, because it's not in front, it's in back. So, this, of course, here I'm talking about a house. Later, I'm going to talk about an apartment, just so you can see the difference. But, so that's just the way it is. This has to do with your level of happiness in general. So this isn't perhaps the most important chart, especially if you Well, it's important if you are a person that is prone to bouts of depression. Then this is a very important chart. But if you're generally happy, I'm not terribly worried about this, but it has better sectors. And the four, in this case, four corner sectors, the ordinal directions, this is a HER2 combination. This is a combo 10. That's a very good set of numbers. And we just look at these as general numbers now. This is a HER2, so it's good. This is a combo 10, and the 6 is generally good. This is just generally good numbers. Here we have a combo 10, and here we have a HER2. Now you do have the 3, which could make arguments a little more possible, and this is okay. Although, you know, the 7 makes it a little bit on the worrisome side, but it is part of the combo 10, so it's not too bad. So these are basically the good sectors. Now, this is, of course, for 2026. It won't ever have any special formation because only things will move around. So it just never will be a special chart. Basically, is all I want to say. But again, I do sell this. If you don't want to deal with this, I do have a video that helps you show you how to do it, but you have to confidently be able to fly the stars in the forward low shoe direction to be able to get your proper purple white chart. So the Schumann chart requires the period of the house, its facing direction, and the subsector with the main chi entry. In this case, it is the subsector, not just the sector, but the subsector. And now, again, this chart doesn't change unless you change the period of your house, unlike the purple-white chart, which changes every year. So for the house that we're looking at, it is a southeast 2 facing house. The door is in east 1. This is the chart. Now, it may be a little hard to read. I don't know. It depends how big your screen is. But it has some good sectors for certain things, and some, and there are other sectors that, of course, aren't so good. Now, these are the good or more useful spirits and doors. Now, not everybody calls it a spirit. I call it that because to me it seems more suitable. Others will call it a god or a deity, but that to me is like saying it's more powerful than I think it really is. To me, it's more like a spirit. So we have the chief, which in generally is very, very good. It can help you find the right people or the right information to help solve your problems. And these problems can be financial, they can be health related, they can be relationship related. It's good for any kind of problem solving. And so in general, this is the one that is always positive, at least for planning and seeking information. Not necessarily always for doing, because that will depend on the door. The heavens, and the official name is 9 heavens, but most of the time you may just see the word heaven or heavens. And this is actually very useful because it enables you to envision the solution to a problem. And I mean, really, you see it in your mind, is what I'm talking about by envisioning. Now, this is also very, very good if you want to have a new product. You have some vague idea for a new product and you want to make it come into fruition and really see it. You see it in your mind first, and once you see it in your mind, it's a lot easier to create, but you really have to truly see the product. And this will usually take a bit of time. And you actually, if you're really good with your envisioning, you can actually even figure out where the problems will probably be. And solving the problem sometimes takes actually fiddling around and trying things out, but sometimes you can even figure it out in your head. So this is a really, really good sector if you're good at envisioning things. If you already do this pretty easily, this helps you a lot more. If you don't have that ability, this will help you some, but not as much as someone who already has an easy time envisioning things. Now, the 9 Earth is basically similar to the Chief, but it's more restricted to just wealth. And this can help you, figure out, what you need to learn so that you can earn more money. This can also help you deal with, learning how to deal with maybe spending too much money if that's your issue. It can help you pinpoint the problems why you're not able to gain wealth. And of course, this assumes that this is a problem. If it's not a problem, this is a good sector to help you invest better. So it's still a good sector regardless. The 6 Harmony, usually just called Harmony, helps with relationships. It can help you find the right people to, or like for marriage counseling, or if you think your child needs some help, this can help you find the right person. This would be where you're gaining information to find the right person to help you. Sometimes it could be the right information to help you, but this is only if you're already fairly good at relationships, and maybe you're just not getting through. Then, but in general you're good in most of your relationships, then you might be able to figure it out by yourself. But oftentimes this is used to help you find the person to help somebody you care about. Now the Moon is great for learning. And so this is a place where, if as long as the other stars in the house are good in this particular sector, and of course that can vary a bit from year to year, this is a great place for you to learn something new or to have your kids study if you have kids. Now there are 8 spirits and there are 8 doors. This is only 5. The remaining are the snake, the hook, and the phoenix. And these aren't basically not very useful if you are unless you are seeking to break the law. And I hope you're not, because this doesn't mean that you'll break the law successfully. It will be some period of time, and you'll probably get caught. Most likely you'll get caught, and then, then you're in real trouble. So I don't recommend using these. Now, if you know Chi-Men, you will know that at least during part of the year, there is also a tiger and a tortoise, but that never appears in the house Chi-Men chart, the feng shui Chi-Men chart. It just doesn't. So we don't have to worry about those. Now, when we come to the doors, there are more good doors. There's 6, but there's still 2 others, and I'll talk about those in a second. But the life door is really good if you are running your own business. This is the place to actually take action. That is to create your sales pitches, to do the paperwork that is associated with running a business. Anything like that. If you have employees, this is the place that you talk to your employees. It could be one employee, it could be all your employees. This is the place to do it. So this is a good place for, let's say, a conference room, or a good place for your office. But of course, it's hard to have your whole employees there, unless you only have 1 or 2 to be in your office, but it's doable if it's a small business. Now, the open door is really good for working, if you're only going to work for others and don't want to run your own business. And I actually really recommend it, unless you're very, very driven. Running your own business is a whole lot of work, and it's hard to make enough profit to live on. So I certainly I'm barely breaking even, but I don't need to make a profit because I'm at retirement age. This I'm doing to help people and doing it really for a bit of fun too. I do enjoy teaching. So uh, this is a place where you would actually do the studying. Here is where you would figure out what you need to study. Here is where you actually do the studying. So that's the difference. The rest door in your house is really great for family relationships. So this can be a recreation room. It can be maybe a movie room, although not a lot of talking goes on unless you discuss the movie afterwards. This can be it could be a playroom, but it's more likely better for either a dining room or a living room where you interact and talk. Of course, if it's your dining room, you need to ban cell phones from the table, and that includes you. That's kind of hard for some people. Not hard for me because I don't have a smartphone, but you know, that's the way it is. Now, the scenery door, this is great for being gaining notice by others, but you have to remain legal because if you do something illegal, even if it's inadvertent, so you have to be a little careful, you will become infamous instead of famous. But being noticed by others is fairly important in period 9. So this is something that that most people have to do a little bit about. And this would be perhaps if you're going to talk to your boss about why he should give you a raise, this is where you could actually practice talking to your boss. And of course, this is in your house, is what I'm talking about. Now, the closed door, it is great for learning. So if you happen to have the moon and the closed door together, that's really great. And it's a really, really good study room, either for you or for your kids. And now Joey Yap calls this the delusion door, but it's the closed door. You have the open door, the closed door. You have the life door and the death door. You have the rest door and the scenery door, the harm door and the fear door. So they're all opposite one another. So that's why I call it the closed door. That's the traditional name for it. Now we also have the harm door. This is great to help you sell products or ideas. And this would be, for example, if you're selling something online, this is where you would be to create the videos to sell your product. And this would be where you create your taglines or your sales pitches to sell things. And this could be working for others, or it could be your own business. You may use two different sectors of your house, depending on that. Now, the other two doors are the death door. The death door is actually very useful if you want to manifest to break a bad habit. But that's really the only thing that it's good for. You never want to activate the death door because that means something will change, because the death door means really the change door. Something will end, so that means change. If you activate it, a lot of different things can change. And things that you don't want to change may change. So that's why it's so important. Now, the fear door can make you more cautious. Now, if you've done some reckless investing, you may want to relearn about investing and being in this sector. But the other good thing it could be good for is if you have a child who is a daredevil and gets injured a lot, if you can put them in a bedroom with a fear door, they will think more about they will think more about, okay, what could happen if something goes wrong, and they could become, let's say, more normal. But if you have a child who is already cautious, you definitely do not want to put them in a bedroom with a fear door, because they can become almost paranoid. They become so scared that they don't want to do anything. So the fear door is generally not a great door unless you need to control recklessness. Now, again, the good spirits don't always come with the good doors. So you may need to do planning in certain sectors and take action in other sectors. And you don't mix the two up because it usually won't be good. So this means you might need to reserve 2 locations in your residence if you run your own business. Even if you work for others, that's possible, but hopefully you have that option. Sometimes it's not possible, and I understand that, and you just do the best you can. Now, the 9 heaven sector is likely to the best sector to do your thinking and planning of how to get your message out, and how to interact with clients, how to research to help improve your business, because you're envisioning things. But again, you do have to sort of have a good ability to envision things. Now, for me, I'm a very visual thinker. I actually see pictures in my head all the time. So I never hallucinated as far as I know, but I really, when I think I think visually. So that really helps. So this sector is a very good sector for me. Now, you can use the life door to actually talk to your clients or put into the actions in the plans that you made in the heaven sector. So this is how you kind of use it. You may have to switch from one place to another. And again, I hope you have that ability to do so. Now, of course, this assumes you also have good stars in this 9 heavens in the life door sector. However, the 9 heavens, since you're doing thinking and planning, and not necessarily talking to people, you don't have to have the best stars. This would be the place that if you haven't got the best stars, it's still usable. But the untimely star 5 is not, if that's not there, you should be able to use at least the heaven sector fine. The life door depends on exactly what you're doing. If the plans are quiet, that is, maybe you are just creating videos, and maybe you go to a better sector to actually have maybe an AI voice over or something, or you could talk over it. So, I mean, for me, I create PowerPoint slides, and here I'm narrating them. So I could use 2 or 3 different sectors if I want to. And again, you still have to watch for the annual afflictions and the untimely 5, especially in the annual, the 5 yellow. That's part of the annual thing. But the untimely 5 as a month star is another thing to watch out for. But it's you do the best you can. And I'm going to show you some examples of different levels of quality of houses and how you can deal with them. So here, this again is the Chiman chart. We have the chief and the harm. Not too bad, especially if you're trying to basically sell something. This is a pretty good sector. You could actually do both the learning how to sell and doing whatever you need to do to sell. This is a pretty good sector. We have the moon and the scenery. This is where you would show off your knowledge. This is maybe where you could make videos where you could show what you know in maybe a flashy way so that it's very memorable. This could get you a lot of positive attention. Now, this is not my house. I'm just kind of randomly pick things. The earth and the rest door, this would be an okay place to think about investing, but this would be something that you wouldn't do 24/7, or you wouldn't be, you wouldn't be doing this because it also has the rest door. So this is a really good place for the family to gather. So you could use it at different times of the day. You could use it for both of those. It's possible. The heaven and the life, this is a really fantastic combination if you run your own business. Really, really good combination, because here you can envision how to make a new product, or how to make your current business run better. And the life door is there. You can just do, once you've thought about it, you can actually do it. You don't have to move to a new place, a new sector, that is. Really good sector for that. Now, this year, 2026, this has the year breaker and the three killings. At least the subsector 2 north does. If you can be in north 3 or north 1, you will be better off. So you do have to be a little careful here. Now, some say that the three killings is all 5 of these sectors, but really it's the animal signs: the pig, the rat, and the ox. So that is really where the three killings is. So these two should be okay sectors. A little bit of caution, but you should be able to use them this year, that is, in 2026. Now here we have the Phoenix and the Open. The Phoenix is not a good thing to be doing planning. So if you're going to plan, you're either going to use the Chief, the 9 heavens, maybe the Earth, or the Moon, depending on exactly what you are. I mean, here you would plan what you need to learn. Here you would think about ways to improve your financial situation. Of course, this often has to do with learning something new, so this might be the better place. Here you're envisioning what to maybe say to the boss, and here you can think about how to approach your boss. Maybe look up, research ways that other people have done this successfully. And you have to find something that you have a little bit of affinity to. I mean, if it's something, if you are a more reserved person and somebody does something outrageous and that gets them a raise, that probably won't work for you. But if you are a kind of outrageous kind of person, and then probably learning something new might not work so well for you. I mean, you probably have to learn it, but it's not something you're going to emphasize. So you have to know who you are, of course. But here is the place, maybe if you're going to talk to your boss remotely, which I wouldn't recommend if you're asking for a raise, but here's where you could actually practice maybe with somebody else in the room, and you're pretending the other person is your boss, how you're going to approach whatever you have envisioned from any one of these other sectors. So this is how you use it. And now here, the death door happens to be here. You can manifest to break a bad habit. Unfortunately, the harmony is also here. So this makes it makes this sector very, very hard to use. This would be better to be a storeroom, a laundry room, maybe a bathroom, something like this. Here we have the hook and the fear, and actually the two together is better than maybe the hook was some other thing, because this makes you a little more cautious, so you're unlikely to use the negative aspects of the hook, but it's still not a good sector. I wouldn't do anything important in here. And the snake and the clothes. Now the clothes is good to learn something new, but the snake isn't so good. Here, maybe this is where you think about what you need to learn. You might use this to actually do the learning, although I'm a little hesitant because of the snake. but you are using it for the closed door. You're actually activating the closed door by basically what this means is that you're less likely to be bothered when you're in that room. That's what the closed door means. So it still would be good, but you have to be careful not to go down a bad path because it is with a snake. So you might have to go back and forth between these two, uh, and uh, and maybe even a little bit of the nine heavens to make sure you're understanding what your actions could result in. So again, I don't really like this sector very much, but it could be useful. But you could just simply use the moon all by itself because the scenery door isn't bad. So this could be where you show off your knowledge. Still have to make sure you know your knowledge though. So but you can do that here too. So what do we have? So for this house, we're assuming we do not have the parent string activated. So we have basically these three sectors are the best sectors. And for the Chiman chart, which also has actually basically the same three, so this is actually pretty lucky, to be honest. The West might able to be used, and so maybe that's there, but the West is a little bit, you have to use it with a great deal of caution. So I prefer just these. Now, since the purple-white chart does not have a special formation, we have to look at, for every year could have a different thing. So here in 2026, the southeast is good, the northwest is good. In 2027, there is nothing here that is shared by both of these. So I would just use both of these and basically ignore this. And the year might not be terribly smooth, but well, actually, it may not feel very smooth. This is what gives you good progress, basically. This is how you're going to feel about the progress. So it's okay for this not to be there. And then in 2028, actually, you've got all of them that is good. So that's good. And of course, this is the three killings. I'm just listing the center one. The north has, of course, northwest 3 and northeast 1. And this will have southwest 3 and northwest 1. This will have the southeast 3 and the southwest 1. So here it is the pig, the rat, and the ox. This is going to be the monkey, the rooster, and the dog. And this is going to be the snake, the horse, and the goat. And so that's what's there. This is where the Grand Duke is. And this is where the 5 yellow is. And of course, this follows the low shoe path. And this just goes around with one animal sign every year. So, and the year breaker is just opposite. In general, it's my experience, and it may not be true for everybody, but it's my experience that if you don't have the year breaker animal in your chart, the year breaker, it doesn't affect you terribly badly. Now, here we're using the whole house sectors and not small Tai Chi. The only time you might use small Tai Chi is if you're just renting a room. But that's very, very hard to be in one sector because you're renting a room, unless it's a large room, you usually, no matter where you sit, you're going to probably, if you move just a little, you'll be in different sectors. So in general, you look at it as a whole house thing. And if you're just renting a room, spend as little time at home, as possible. Be out and about and in better places. So, and you can just be at work, that because you are told to be in one spot, that's where you do your work. And usually because you are restricted by others, you don't receive much negative energy. And because they're the one who put you there, they actually, the one who does that is more likely to receive some negative things. But here again, the southeast, northwest, and north can be used in most years. And when the purple white also has good stars, you will be happier. But that doesn't mean you won't get more done. I mean, uh, you you can get a whole lot done even when you don't have a good purple white. You just won't feel so happy about it. That's basically it. And of course, the month stars should be taken into account. I have a video that has has the pattern of the annual month stars. If you watch that, you will be able to tell. And it's not hard. It's actually one of the easier things in feng shui. Now, if you can activate the parent string, then all is good. So all of these are good, and you have at least one sector you can use. That will be good. And of course, it will have its own special properties. But I would say you want to use whatever properties you can, basically based on the Chi chart. The actions or the thinking that you do there, that's based on the Chi chart. You just hope you have some good sectors in the flying star chart. You can still use all of these even if you don't have the parent string activated, but where you don't have the overlap, usually there will be less opportunity coming in. But that doesn't mean that you can't make progress. You can. It's just harder. Okay, so going to move on to example 2. This is a period 8, and I'm doing period 8 because period 8 is the most common out there. This is a southwest 1 facing house. And I'm assuming that this is a house that has some, it's not truly rectangular. Maybe you have a back porch here, and maybe this is your front porch. So these are potential missing sectors. And there is one chart that has, that to be activated cannot have missing sectors. So of course, I'm going to pick that one. So this is how you would lay the 24 mountain chart over this. Now, if you're doing this by hand and you only have a protractor that goes from 180, 0 to 180, you have to find out this angle. So it is, you just take 360 and subtract 206, and that will tell you what this angle is. So you can do this even if you don't have a protractor that is 360 degrees. They do exist, but honestly, they're a little hard to use in some places. You have to have enough space because they tend to be bigger. Now here, the main door is in South 2, and I'm just assuming this is an address number. It's actually a her2. These are both her2s. Just a number. I don't think it makes any difference, but it might. But I haven't actually heard anybody say this. So this is the flying star chart for this house with the southwest as the facing sector. And it has a potential base sitting combo 10. It requires no missing sectors. Now, this is basically the flying star chart I have for my current house. And we have no missing sectors, so we have this activated. And of course, if it's not activated, if you have missing sectors, then it's a problem. And so you have to, how do you find out if you have a missing sector? Well, this is pretty clearly a missing sector. There's a tiny bit here, but it's way over 1/3 of this sector. And so I don't even have to calculate this. I know it's a missing sector. Here, this is actually, if I look at it just by dividing this by thirds, Well, it definitely has 2/9 of it missing. Is this half? Kind of looks like half. This would make the third ninth, which would make 1/3. And then you've got extra a little bit over here. My guess is yes. I mean, just when I looked at this, I said yes. But the best way to do this is if you have a dimension floor plan, you divide this into, 9 equal sized sectors, and you have, of course, have to square off the outside, and then you find out what this area is. In this case, it is 104 square feet is this one sector measured this way. And this missing area, which is from the outside wall to this outside line, this is 41 square feet. Now that is more than 33%. So this is also considered a missing sector. So you have 2 missing sectors. And if this is what you have, you don't have the combo 10 activated. This is one that you can solve. But it's not free. What you have to do is you have to build some walls. So you can make this a screened-in porch, not a screened-in porch, it has to be glassed in. You can have operable windows, but they have to be able to be shut so that there's a difference between the air here and the air outside. Of course, you'll have doors to still get in, and you can do this with the back porch too. Now, of course, these both have to have roofs, so they have to be part of the house. It doesn't have to share the roof of the entire house. It just has to have its own roof. And that would allow you to then square off the house, and now you've activated the combo 10. And of course, the question is, if you're in period 9 already, and this is a period 8 house, does this change the period? So here, when we add this and this, we're actually adding 109 square feet. The total area is over 800, and that's less than 33%. So this does not change the period of the house. It will still be a period 8 house. So these are all things you have to check. If you were to have, if this were to look instead like this, and you had 2 missing sectors, there's a decent chance that building that out would create a change in period. So you have to know what's going on in your house. And I don't think, well, there may be there may be a combo 10, a rare combo 10 in period 9. I'd have to go back and look at my own charts, my own tables that tell me all that. So I do look at my these PowerPoint files, and also have other charts that are just in Word, where I look at all my data. So I have to look back at it. I can't remember everything. So here, let's say you have this and it's the house without, with those missing sectors. So basically you really only have these sectors as being good. This is a combo 10, 6 is generally positive, that's nice. We have the 4 and the 1, that's a very good sector, a very good combination, and in period 9 it's only better. When we get to period 1, this is the base star, it's not so important, and it'll still be a decent sector. Here we have the 8 and the 2. Now in the flying star chart, no matter what, the 2 is not an illness star, it is a well star, and so is 8, so this is a pretty good sector. Now here we have the 5, so that is not so good. Now you will see that this here looks a lot like the like it did. Well, it doesn't really look like it because it's here's 2 2s and 2 5s, but it kind of reminiscent of the pearl or parent string, but it's not a parent string, and it's because we don't have the rest of it. So this sector, well, this is a combo 10, This is got two good stars, but it's really, you've got the 7, and it's the facing star that has to do with being scammed when it comes to money, finances. It's not very good. This is a combo 10. This isn't the worst sector, but a 3, that is a lot of arguments in the household. Not so great. Uh, this is, again, now the 7 is in the sitting, and so maybe you get scammed with health related things or relationship related things. The 5 is not timely, so that's not good financially for the entire house. This is particularly bad. Maybe you move here, you find that somebody in the family suddenly starts spending a lot of money, and you have a relationship problem because of that. This is a combo 10. It's not too bad, but here you got that star 3 that could lead to arguments at work. So in general, these are the only really good ones if you cannot square off that house, or rectangular off the house. That's not really a word, but basically take away the missing sectors by building out. Now, if you are able to have this, you then have each one of these as a combo 10, obviously. And so this creates an activated chart. It's better for health and relationships than it is for money, but that also tends to make you a lot happier. So you don't necessarily feel the need for a lot of material wealth. And so if you're retired, this isn't a bad place. It's good for health, good for relationships. This is a pretty good place if you're retired. Now we're moving out of this house, hopefully the end of this year or maybe early next year, into a house that's a period 9 house. It was meant to be a period 8 house, but the death of my nephew really screwed everything up, because that meant we had to find the money to get professional help to get the thing done, and so we're working on that now. So now this is not our address, but it is a address. It's that I'm just making it a her to in both of these. I don't think it means anything, but an interesting address anyway. And so if we are going to do the purple-white chart, we know it has the combo 10, but we now are going to look at the purple-white chart. Whether or not we have a door here or here, it's still in this, either one is going to be south 2. So we haven't done anything there. If we were to move the door over, it could move it to south 1. That could make a difference. In this case, I don't think it will. And even if we remove it to this wall, which isn't very practical, kind of weird, but it would probably still have the center of the door in south 1. And I believe that all of the south shares the same chart it certainly shares the same chart in the purple-white chart, but I think it also shares the same chart in the Chiman chart. So here, this is, again, it's a 4. If you've listened to my purple-white, special charts in purple-white, the south can never have a special chart. It just never works out. So then you're looking at what's good. Now, this is a HER2. This is a combo 10. We have a 9 here. That's good. We have a 2. So we have a 4 here. That's generally good. This is a HER2. This is a combo 10. This is a great sector. Of course, they move every year, but these are the best sectors, at least in period 9. And these sectors are also basically good. These are all good stars. This is for everybody, so the annual star is the least important one here, but there is a bit of chance of some arguments or unhappiness about disagreements. Maybe you don't argue a lot, but you don't like what the other person thinks. But you do have this HER2. So in general, that will overrule the annual star. And here we have a combo 10. and this is generally a good star. So this is pretty good. You have quite a few sectors that are good, even though you are not going to be able to have a special formation in your flying star, in your purple white chart. But it's okay. Again, this only has to do with how happy you happen to be. Most of these sectors, you're going to be fairly happy. So that's good. And that doesn't mean that, unless you are a person who's easily depressed, this house is still pretty good. The purple white chart is okay. Now, when we get to the Chiman chart, we have some interesting combinations. We have harmony and open. And if you are involved in a business that is, for example, psychological, you're a psychologist or someone who is helping people deal with any kind of marriage counselor or anything like this, this would be a good place to be thinking about or even doing like online, therapy. And this is Phoenix in Life. Well, Life Door is really good if you're running your own business, but the Phoenix is very, very dangerous because there's a tendency to go outside the legal lines. But this could be where maybe you have thought about other things, like maybe in the heaven and the close. This is where you can really concentrate on envisioning things. So I do like the heaven and close. Uh, the uh, the earth and the harm isn't bad. This is where you can actually concentrate on learning how, or well, if you're running your own business or you're running your own finances, which is what everybody does, you're able to come up with ways to better, hold on to money. And you can sell this idea to like your family members or to your boss to give you a raise. It's pretty good. The chief and scenery, this is a fantastic sector. Uh, you think about and plan on ways to to solve problems. That's basically what the chief does, and you become known for that. Fantastic sector. This one is possible, but here's where maybe you just do like the paperwork associated with running a business, and you don't do interaction with the outside world. But again, you do have to be careful, make sure you stay legal, because the Phoenix has this tendency to not be so good. So that gives you these four sectors that are pretty good. Now, the moon and the fear. The moon is good for learning, but it can make you awfully cautious about applying what you know. So you could learn something here, and maybe you go to this sector to activate it. And then you also will able to find ways to solve your fears, or to realize what you fear isn't a real problem, that kind of thing. So this is a pretty good pretty good house. Now this is basically our chart, and I do most of my work in this sector of my house. So and this is where we spend most of the time. So this is where my dining table happens to be, and that's where I usually work. Now, I don't always record there because I need to be in a place where I can close the door, and our dining room is open to basically the whole bottom floor of our house. So, so I don't often record there. Now, assuming the combo 10 can't be activated, cannot be activated, so that would be the house with the missing sectors. You still have the north, at least in 2026, is completely good. Now, again, the purple white it has to do with how you feel in the house. So it's not necessarily a big deal unless you're a depressive person, that it has to be good. But this is still a common good sector. That is the north. And but in 2027, the north has the 5 yellow, so it really should not be used for activating. So if we're still in the house once the fire goat month or year starts, then I could be creating my PowerPoint files, which is a very quiet activity, but I would be narrating them probably in my southwest sector if we're still here. I hope we are in the new house by then, but we'll see. Still a lot more to do than I would like to have to do. But anyway, we'll see. And so this this is a problem. And of course, there will be a month star where the 5 is also in the north, so it can be quite negative. So, but that doesn't mean I can't do the quiet part there. I just don't, I can't narrate it there because that's activating it. That's and actually creating the video there, which is actually a very quiet act because it's just basically one click on the on a mouse. But that would be activating it, but certainly narrating it is activating it. So I would have to be a little careful. So again, you can choose one of the good Flying Star sectors or one of the good Cheeman sectors. Really, the North is unfortunately the only really good one that they share. So I would probably, in my particular house, I would be choosing the Southwest, simply because it's a pretty good sector, and I have that available to be used. So this is actually our house. So we have a activated combo 10, and so all of these sectors are good, and we have a much broader spectrum that we can use uh, in these years, and so it's a lot easier to do. And this is the advantage of having at least one of your charts having if you're in a house, it's very good to have your Flying Star chart have this. Now for us, it is a sitting base combo 10, which is good for health and relationships, not so good for earning money. And I'd have to say that that is more or less correct. I mean, we've never earned a whole lot of money, but we also don't spend very much, and that's because we're fairly satisfied with what we have. We don't feel a lot of need for material goods. One reason why I don't have a smartphone, I don't need one. I just don't have honestly, any need for a smartphone. I use something called Maps to get around, and I've been in foreign countries and just use Maps. So it can be done. I don't know about today's kids, but it's not that hard to learn. I learned as a kid. So anyway, of course, you still have to worry about these annual and month stars and the annual afflictions and all that stuff. But this actually makes it much easier to use when something is activated. So here we're going to move on to an apartment. So it's a little bit different, but this is the real difference between a house and an apartment. With apartments, flats, condos, any multi family or multi-unit building, the Flying Star chart still uses the entire building's facing. So it's like it's just one unit. But the purple, white, and Cheeman charts will use the apartment units facing, which can be different. It could be the same, but as the building facing. But you look at this this is basically, you're looking at the charts in a slightly different way. So here is an example of an apartment building, and I'm only looking at one apartment, so I only have one of the internal apartments marked. Who knows what they look like in the rest of the building? We don't care. But this building faces 114 degrees, which looks to be southeast, but I don't remember. But I mean, I can't be 100% sure, but I think it is southeast, probably southeast one. But because you just add 90 degrees to each one, to get all of your numbers, well, this is 104 degrees. So the unit faces 104, the building faces 114. So there is the difference, and you do have to know that for an apartment. So here it is actually Southeast 1, just into Southeast 1, and that is the building facing, and this will be, I believe, in Southwest 1, but we will stick this over the apartment later, and we'll be sure about this. So, uh, so this building faces Southeast 1, and I'm just going to say it's in a period 8 apartment, again, because period 8 actually has a lot of good charts, so it's a little easier to work with. So here we have this, and this is a potential pearl string, where we have each one of these, one, 1, 2, 3, so forth. And so this is nice, because this, if it is activated, it will be good. And if it's not activated, then we have these as generally good sectors. And this is good. This is good. Probably this isn't a terrible sector, although it's not great. But these are definitely the best sectors. And that's because this is a combo 10, which you can look at. That is the base sitting as a combo 10. Again, base star 5 isn't the worst thing to have. Kind of a little scary, but the base star doesn't affect your day-to-day opportunities. This in general is not too bad. We have the 2 is timely now. It's a well star, and it's in the well star position. It's in the facing star. 4 is in the sitting star, and 4 in general is good, so that's good. 6 is good for money. That's nice. 8 is generally good, so that's good. We don't worry too much about these base stars. And this one is a 1 and an 8 is quite good. 9 and 1, this is a combo 10. So even though we don't normally put a whole lot of energy in this, but it is still a combo 10. This is also a combo 10. This is a well star, but it's in the sitting. But this is still quite good for basically for health, because here you're not going to have to spend a lot of money on your health. Your health is your wealth. This is, a common saying, because it's really true. If you're not healthy, it's very hard to earn money. It's, especially if you feel pain all the time, then it's very hard to earn money, because it's hard to work when you're in pain. So this is assuming the pearl string can't be activated. So to activate the pearl string, you typically need a mountain in the back of the building and water in the front. Now this can be a swimming pool at the apartment. I mean, usually it's an enclosed area. You don't have it out where people walking by usually can see you. But this could also be a fountain, which is not so good, but it could just be some sort of a nice little pond, just something maybe gently moving fountain, that would be fine. But for an apartment, then since each apartment only gets part of the energy from the flying star chart, it may not be so bad, even if it is a fountain, for an apartment. Especially if they turn the fountain off at night. Then it's much healthier for the people living there. But that would certainly do it. And if you can see water, regardless if it's right next to the building or it's farther away, and we're talking about a lake or somebody else's swimming pool, as it would qualify. Uh, Especially when you're in the higher floors, you'd have a tendency to be able to see that better. That would activate it. Now, it may only activate it for certain floors then, because you do have to see the water. So it's better if the apartment actually has some sort of water in the front or is on the waterfront, which is, that is, the road is here and the building is here, and you can see the water. That would be how you would do the facing. Now, it also could have some other possible formations, but this is the important one, the one that will make all stars timely for all periods. So this would be very nice. And of course, how much of this energy depends on how many apartments are there. So this is why it's okay to have a little bit more activity in the water, because that means there's more general energy and it's diluted because it's spread out through the apartments. So it could still work. But in a house, I definitely don't recommend a fountain. So this is the flying stars over the apartment, or I mean, sorry, the 24 mountains over the apartment. Now it's clear that, of course, it's a southwest one facing just barely, just like it was barely a southeast facing building. This is barely a southwest facing unit, but it's southwest. And the door sector is southwest 3. Now you can see it's very close to the dividing line between the two. But it is, if you have the door shut, so it's in line with the inside of the door, of the wall, which is usually where the door shuts, if it swings inward anyway. It is this point right here on the interior wall, and it is still within Southwest 3. Now I can see it better in a blown up version, but it's there. So this is a Southwest 1 facing unit with a balcony door in Southwest 3, and this, I'm assuming the floor number is 16. So for the purple right chart, remember we need that key number. So we take the floor number divided by 9. It's 1.7 and it keeps going. We only care about this number. So the key number is 7th, and the incoming chi is southwest. Here we don't care about the sub chi, we just need the main, the 45-degree sector. And this is the chart for it. Now, this has a permanent parent string. So that's fantastic. That makes this apartment generally good. You're generally happy here. So you tend to have more energy than you might have in a different apartment. And so this is good. And this is a very important chart. Of course, it depends how many units are in the entire building, but in general, it's a pretty good chart. So this is the Chiman chart for this unit. And there are 3 pretty good sectors and one that is useful under certain circumstances. So here we have the heaven and the close. So this is a very good place to envision the solution to your problems, and also to learn in a lot greater detail exactly how to do this. So this is a sector where you can solve problems really easily by study of some sort. So this does require studying, whether it is official studying, like for a degree, or just learning on from online classes or from books you know, almost anything, you can use this. And if you get good, you can even use the internet if you know how to spot the trustworthy websites. Now, this is also a very, very good sector. We have the chief and the scenery. So this is an excellent place to get help to make yourself more visible, especially in period 9. This is very important. So this can give you a lot more exposure. It can give you good exposure at work, or it can give you good exposure as a for a business, your own business. This is all really good. And I really like this sector. In fact, I like both of these sectors pretty well. I am more in tune with this one, but this is still a very, very good sector. Now here we have harmony and open. So what this indicates is that if your business, or I shouldn't say your business, if the place that you're working for has to do with helping people, maybe family counseling, marriage counseling, helping people with emotional issues of all kinds of sort. I mean, if people that were suffered trauma, especially repeated trauma in their childhood, often have issues, and that can make this a really good sector if this is what you are employed doing, because open doors if you're working for somebody else. And so this would be a good sector to actually do your interaction with people if you're doing it online. And so you could do it that way. This one is perhaps useful, a little bit less useful in general. It's the moon and the fear. Now, the moon is great for learning, but the fear door makes you a little more careful. So if you in the past have learned things and you haven't been careful with where you're getting the source of the information, so you get wrong information, and you believe it, and you then find out later you are wrong, and so you're obviously not able to figure out what is the best place to look for information, basically. This can make you a little more careful in, let's say, being more certain, maybe by looking at a lot of different websites and finding which ones have more trustworthy information. And sometimes you have to talk to other people for this, but you can basically figure out which websites are better. And I do this when I'm doing some of the stuff with the BATSA auxiliary stars. And I have a book that is the basic thing, but I've over time have learned there are maybe 4 or 5 good websites that give more detailed information than the book, but it's not inconsistent with the vast majority of websites out there. Lots of times you can get very general information that doesn't do you much good. That's what I see when I'm doing that for these auxiliary stars. But then I have a couple, about maybe 4 or 5 different websites, the last part you recognize, that are consistently good and in detail. And those are the ones that I look for when I search for these things. But that's after doing, I don't know, 40, 50 different auxiliary stars. So it takes some time to develop. But this is really good for that purpose. If you have, especially in the past, found information that was later proven to be quite incorrect, and you stuck your foot out and you got burned for it, that kind of thing, because you had the wrong information. This is what this is really good for. But if you are more careful, this might make you too careful. So this has to do with your personality combined with all the crazy information and all the stuff that's out there on the internet, which is ridiculous how much there is. But it can also make learning a lot more easy without having to travel the world, basically. So, what do we have? If the pearl string cannot be activated in the flying star chart, we still have quite a few sectors that are good. Now, the purple-white chart has a permanently good formation, so it doesn't matter what year, it will always be good. So, and again, you don't use, you basically need to use the whole apartment unless you're just renting a room, and in an apartment, it's going to be even a smaller room. It's going to be very hard to do that. So in general, you need to have either a really already good bedroom for you as an individual, and this particular unit is by the size of the door is basically a studio apartment, or at most a one-bedroom apartment. So you probably do have access to the entire apartment, and so you could use it, and you then, you don't use this. And most of the time, if you're sharing an apartment, either, well, if you don't get along with your roommates, you move out very quickly. But in general, most of the time, people are okay with where you are. At least that's been my experience. Now, because this is an apartment, it's the Cheeman and the purple-white charts that take precedent over the flying star chart, unless I would say there's less than maybe 20 units in the building, because then you're getting a decent amount of energy from the purple-white chart. Now, of course, the annual afflictions and annual and month stars need to be looked at to avoid problems with them, just like I did for the rest. So you just, that these warnings apply to everybody equally. It's all the same for every single building out there or unit out there. Now, if you can activate the pearl string, then basically you only have to worry about the Cheeman chart, because this is what gives you the energy that really makes a difference, because everything else is fantastic. So hopefully, if you had an apartment like this, you could have the pearl string activated. It's a decent chance that you can. So I would keep my fingers crossed for you guys. And so again, same thing. You have to worry about annual afflictions and annual month stars. And because this is all good, it's only good. I mean, it still may not give you a ton of energy, but it's good. And that's very, very nice. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a residence with an activated flying star chart and activated, I mean, not activated, it has a special formation in the purple-white chart, activated always by time, then you can fine-tune your Cheeman chart for specific needs. And here, this is when it might be worth to go beyond just the spirit and the door, which is what you can get publicly on my channel after mid April. And there we be looking at the stars, the hexagrams, and the stems. That is the other things that are in your flying star chart. I mean, I'm sorry, in your Cheeman chart, and they do have an influence, and it can actually help you narrow down the sector. But you still, of course, still have to deal with the annual afflictions and the year and month stars. So, but they don't necessarily destroy these as good sectors, because because it just like for this, it will affect your, let's say, your satisfaction. Some people, when they're dissatisfied, work harder. That is a good thing. If you're a person who gets dissatisfied and quits, then you have to make sure that you don't have problems, especially with stars, the annual month stars. The annual afflictions, you still should be careful when it comes to activation, but it's totally fine to sit there and think and that kind of thing. And because this particular unit has all of the charts, the purple white charts are great. It makes it a lot easier, and in general, you're a lot happier. And so, even if you're not quite satisfied, you'll still be fairly happy. And so, that usually overcomes the dissatisfaction. And then, the next year when the annual afflictions move and the stars move, it is back to kind of normal and things are much more satisfactory. So I think this is a really, really, this particular place would be a really good place to be in. And again, with the apartments, if you can select the right floor with the right incoming chi, you can you can guarantee that the purple white chart will be good. And that makes it just generally a happier place to live. Of course, it depends on what being happy does for you, but it's good for, I would say, 99% of the people out there. So that's one reason I do like apartments. It makes it much easier to be quite happy. But of course, not all the units in the building will have this. So that's it. I'm hoping that with these examples, you get a better idea how to look at your house as a whole or your apartment as a whole to figure out where your best sector is, especially for specific tasks. And if you can make a lot more progress in your life. And I mean, I would like everybody out there to, have a happy life because, and have a fulfilled life because you're just a better person when that happens. And you're kinder and make the world a better place. And I really think the world does need to become a better place. And hopefully this will help some people. Thanks again for watching.